If I wanted to destroy my chances of building a good physique or of building muscle, of losing fat at the same time, these are 11 things that I would do. So this isn't just bad habits. This is how you disrupt metabolism at the cellular level. So the first thing, number one, is gut health. So I'm going to break down gut health here. The first thing that I would do that would absolutely compromise my ability to change my physique to really get in the best shape would be not to take care of my gut health. And this is something that really flies under the radar for a lot of people because we tend to think of just calories in and calories out. But at the end of the day, we have to remember the gut is where everything is absorbed. But not only that, if the gut health is compromised, we have a big influx of inflammation. In scientific settings, what they do to induce inflammation within rodents or even within other models is they damage the gut or they increase lipopolysaccharides, which are what are basically seeping through the gut and inducing inflammation. So if the gut is compromised, the body's inflamed, which impedes muscle building, which definitely impedes fat loss, which disrupts metabolic function. When inflammation rises, immune cells shift into activated signalosome heavy states. These signalosomes are intracellular complexes that decide whether a cell burns fat, glucose, or enters inflammatory mode. High inflammation pushes immune cells away from efficient fatty acid oxidation. FATP receptors, which are fatty acid transport proteins, become less efficient at importing fatty acids into immune cells for clean fuel use. Instead, immune cells default toward glucose dependence, increasing metabolic stress. So, gut damage doesn't just cause inflammation, it rewrites immune fuel selection. And when fats are high in circulation, immune signalosomes also shift lipid signaling behavior, which can either stabilize or destabilize inflammation depending on metabolic context. Now, layer in metabolic gridlock. Sugar with carbs together means chronic insulin signaling. So this metabolic gridlock, this reduces FATP-mediated fatty acid uptake in immune cells and simultaneously reduces glucose receptor efficiency due to receptor saturation stress. So the result is immune cells stuck without clean fuel flexibility. That's metabolic dysfunction at the immune level. So what I would do is avoid things like alcohol. I would also avoid overuse of NSAIDs, like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. So these don't just temporarily damage the gut, these can long-term degrade the gut mucosal layer, which makes it that your line of defense between really having a healthy gut and having things that get into your bloodstream completely compromised. There's a reason people talk about reducing NSAID use. I would also reduce things like polysorbate 80, polysorbate 20, anything that says polysorbate in it. So when you look at your food labels, when you go to the grocery store, you might find things or you might find polysorbate in the ingredients list. These emulsifiers are used in research to induce gut inflammation and disrupt the gut barrier. Not saying it destroys your physique instantly, but if gut integrity and immune signaling matter to you, then it matters. Mistake number 2 is being in chronic fight or flight. The next thing that would really destroy my chances long term of having a good physique would be fight or flight all the time. I would focus on all stimulants. I would just caffeine up. I would do everything I can because pushing through is how we burn fat. But what happens biologically is chronic sympathetic stress increases glucose output. immune cells shift toward inflammatory signalosomes. Fatty acid oxidation decreases due to FATP transport suppression under stress. Glucose uptake becomes dysregulated under constant cortisol signaling. So instead of a metabolic flexibility, you get metabolic rigidity. And you're never giving yourself a chance to have that parasympathetic tone. That's a big mistake. Mistake number 3 is protein neglect. If I was going to compromise my physique, I would not prioritize protein. Every meal should anchor around protein because without it, muscle protein synthesis drops, immune repair signaling weakens, and metabolic stability declines. Even snacks should prioritize protein. Mistake number 4 is work capacity obsession, leading to adaptive fatigue loop. If I only focused on work capacity, endless conditioning, nonstop burn workouts, it becomes a burnout loop because immune system signalosomes interpret constant stress as systemic threat. Glucose demand increases chronically, and fatty acid oxidation becomes secondary. You don't build structure, you build fatigue tolerance. Mistake number 5, caloric restriction without BMR awareness means metabolic downshift. Do not calorically restrict without regard to basal metabolic rate. This is what happens with aggressive restriction. Thyroid output drops, which will affect the immune system because thyroid hormones, they do have an impact or an influence on immune cells. Also, immune signaling becomes energy conserving, FATP receptor activity decreases, and then glucose uptake becomes prioritized in survival mode. This is why G-Flux matters. Move more and eat more. Mistake number 6 is liquid calories equals no satiety and fast metabolic override. Liquid calories bypass satiety signaling, so GLP-1 response is weaker, insulin spikes faster, lipid handling becomes inefficient. Even if micronutrients exist, the metabolic response is blunt. Mistake number 7, destroying yourself in training, or in other words, overtraining. So if you obliterate yourself in the gym, you reduce NEAT, or NEAT, which is daily movement. Total energy output drops, fat loss slows. The immune system also reads this as recovery demand, shifting resources away from fat oxidation. Number 8, if you're replacing good quality fats like meat, tallow, olive oil with oxidized seed oils, like what you would find at the grocery store if you look at the ingredients list, this would lead to lipid signaling pathways become less stable. Immune signalosomes respond with increased oxidative stress signaling. Also, CD44, which is an immune adhesion inflammation marker, becomes more active in inflammatory environments. LDL particles become more oxidized prone in chronic inflammatory states. This is not about demonizing fats. It's about stability of lipid signaling. Now, mistake number 9, probably one of the biggest ones, is no sleep, which is the quickest way to destroy physique overnight. So sleep deprivation causes inflammation spike, which is associated with a lot of issues, such as lower citrulline. So with reduced citrulline, because of inflammation, weaker immune cells, because immune cells, they need citrulline. Also, sleep deprivation causes reduced glucose regulation and immune signalosome dysregulation, because immune cells, they need signalosomes to uptake substrates. So alcohol and THC reduce REM sleep, which is essential for repair signaling. Light exposure also matters. Sunlight regulates circadian cortisol rhythm. Darkness signals melatonin repair pathways because melatonin induces sleep. Also, it's important to regulate the cortisol because if you've seen my other videos, cortisol can reduce megalin-cubalin, leading to B12 deficiency. So sleep pressure builds through activity and adenosine accumulation. Okay, so number 10, combining high fats and high carbs, leading to metabolic gridlock. Now here's the deeper layer. Glucose plus fat presence together disrupt normal receptor prioritization. Immune cells struggle to decide whether to use fatty acids or glucose. Signalosomes become conflicted, increasing storage signaling. LDL levels can increase in circulation under chronic insulin, plus lipid overlap, and then LDL interacts with CD44 signaling pathways, influencing inflammatory adhesion processes. So now you have fuel confusion, immune confusion, and then storage bias. And last on the list, number 11, ignoring insulin management equals metabolic rigidity. If you are not metabolically healthy and you are not managing insulin relative to activity, then chronic hyperinsulinemia promotes fat storage. Glucose stays elevated longer, which means that cancer could feed on that glucose. Also, fatty acid release is suppressed, so less fat for fuel for immune cells. And then immune cells shift toward glucose dependence. FATP mediated fat uptake becomes less efficient. In metabolically healthy individuals, flexibility exists. In metabolically unhealthy individuals, rigidity dominates. The reality is, every one of these 11 behaviors doesn't just hurt your physique, they change immune cell fuel selection, lipid signaling pathways, glucose partitioning, inflammatory adhesion behavior, which is CD44, and systemic metabolic flexibility. So when people say fat loss is simple, biologically it isn't. It's coordinated across gut, immune system, hormones, and cellular fuel networks. As always, keep it locked here, and I'll see you in the next video.